I'm Kevin. I'm an accessibility consultant. I work for a company called Level Access. And I do digital accessibility. So we're here to talk about that for you, what digital accessibility is and all that. I'm purposely not saying website accessibility or document accessibility. I'm saying digital accessibility because this applies to everything. This applies to kiosks. This applies to phones. This applies to video games. So accessibility within the digital world applies to a lot of stuff, not just websites. I'm mostly going to talk about websites today because that's what we can all relate to. And I'm also going to go into a little thing on Word documents and making PDF files. So just know that what we're talking about applies to this whole big spectrum. Quick agenda. Let's get all on the same page. What is it that we're talking about and why you should care about this? Then what do you do about it? Which includes some of the most common things that you're going to run into failures-wise for accessible content. And then we'll walk you through how to go about testing your content. We'll take a little deeper dive into Microsoft Word and creating accessible PDF files from Microsoft Word, because my understanding is a lot of you are going to be doing that kind of stuff. And finally, questions and answers at the end. Any questions so far? Great. First, what are we talking about? Newsflash, everybody. People with disabilities use the internet. I know that should not be shocking to anybody. The internet is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Barack Obama said a few years ago. It's almost impossible these days to function in society without using the internet. Apply for a job. Order a pizza online. I haven't been in a bank in I don't know how long. I have no reason to. Everything's either at an ATM or online. So functioning in today's society, you have to have the internet. And when it's done right, technology is a great equalizer. You don't have to go into a bank. You know, as someone who is blind, going to the bank is not just a trivial process, right? You have to arrange transportation. You have to either take a bus. It's an all-day trip to go to the bank. But you could do everything now online, in theory. Again, if the website and the digital materials are made to be accessible for all users. They've estimated that 9 out of 10 websites, however, are not accessible. That's not a good number, is it? Other people have estimated closer to 70% of all websites are not accessible, but still. So the two biggest groups that we have to worry about with our digital accessibility are people with visual disabilities and people with motor skills disabilities. The other two kind of major categories, auditory and speech, people who are deaf, and people with cognitive disabilities. And we'll touch on all of those, but if we're solving it for these two groups, we're solving it for a lot. That's kind of the biggest piece that we need to solve for. So let's talk about visual disabilities for a second. Because when I say visual disabilities and the internet, people say, well, you're talking about blind people, right? Yes, we are. But that's not it. That's not the whole group. That's disability is a spectrum. Blind is one part of it. People with low vision is another part. And people who are colorblind is another part. Now, some interesting numbers for you. The CDC defines these two, groups these two together, the blind and low vision. And low vision is anybody who can't see at something like 2200 with corrective lenses. So even if you have corrective lenses, you still can't see better than 2200. So people who are low vision. Any guesses what percentage of the population this is?
20.
Good number, but it's 10. 10% of the population, 1 out of 10 people, this qualifies as low vision. And then for color blindness, it's 4.5%. It's actually 8% of men and a very tiny fraction of women who are colorblind, interestingly enough. And the most common is red-green colorblind, but there's other kinds of colorblindness as well, including no perception of color whatsoever. It's very rare, but it is a thing. So, how do people with visual disabilities use the internet? Well, the most common is what's called a screen reader. The most common one is called JAWS, and it's a paid software. They've actually just changed their licensing on it not too long ago, so you can get it now for about $100 a year for a person, which is not too bad. It used to be like $600 to buy it. It's $100 a year subscription. There's also a program called Nvda, which is a free version of it, free version of JAWS. It doesn't work as well. We do test for it when we are testing stuff, but our primary is JAWS. Now, if you're using a Mac or iOS, there's something called Voiceover that's built into the operating system. And you can turn that on. If you go up to the Apple menu and go to Preferences, there's a whole section on accessibility. If you're using an Android phone, there's something called TalkBack. And then there's also devices that hook up with all of those things that are called Braille Readers. And so in addition to hearing it, you can also feel it with Braille. Most people aren't learning Braille these days, though. Most people who are blind actually aren't learning Braille. It's becoming a lost thing because technology eliminates the need for it. Instead of learning a different way of reading, your phone will read it to you, right? So that little device right there is about $4,000, just so you know. They're incredibly expensive. And they go up to about $10,000 for a device. Okay, so what do we mean by JAWS will read the screen to you? Let's find out, shall we? Here's a website.
nps.gov homepage left paren u.s National Park Service right paren dash Mozilla Firefox. nps.gov homepage left paren u.s National Park Service right paren. Page has 2 regions. 42 links. nps.gov homepage left paren u.s National Park Service right paren list of 3 items. Same page link skip to global NPS navigation. Visited same page link skip to main content. Same page link skip to footer. List end. Visited link National Park Service logo National Park Service. Search edit. This site button. All NPS button. Search button. Heading level 3 button collapsed open menu. Graphic celebrating history, culture and contributions. Heading level 2 graphic African American heritage. Link graphic learn more. Link graphic find a park. By state ... button graphic collapsed. Link graphic see all parks and search by map. Main region. Link graphic 3-story White House and reflection in a pond. Heading level 3 link presidents and parks single right pointing angle quotation mark. Discover stories and trace journeys of U.S. presidents through their historical connections with national parks.
Did you get all that?
Absolutely. That's exhausting.
It is. Let's do it again, but we'll do exactly the same thing, but now you can see it. And you can see where I was in JAWS the whole time.
nps.gov homepage left paren u.s National Park Service right paren dash Mozilla Firefox. nps.gov homepage left paren u.s National Park Service right paren. Page has 2 regions, 11 headings and 42 links. nps.gov homepage left paren u.s National Park Service right paren list of 3 items. Same page link skip to global NPS navigation. Visited same page link skip to main content. Same page link skip to footer. List end. Visited link National Park Service logo National Park Service. Search edit. This site button. All NPS button. Search button. Heading level 3 button collapsed open menu. Graphic celebrating history, culture and contributions. Heading level 2 graphic African American heritage. Link graphic learn more. Link graphic find a park. By state ... button graphic collapsed. Link graphic see all parks and search by map. Main region. Link graphic 3-story White House and reflection in a pond. Heading level 3 link presidents and parks single right pointing angle quotation mark.
Discover stories and trace journeys of U.S. presidents through their historical connections with national parks.
Okay, so that's JAWS just reading top to bottom, all right? I just hit go and it just started reading. People who use JAWS natively aren't going to do this. What they're going to do is JAWS has a bunch of tools in it that will let you go to different parts of the page. Just like visually, your eyes would go, oh, well, that's what I want to see. I'm going to go right there, okay? So using JAWS, same site, different page. I'm going to use some of the tools here to navigate the page without having to just listen to the whole thing.
National Park Week -NPS celebrates, left paren U.S. National Park Service right paren. Select a form field dialog. This site, all NP, search button, 4 of 12. Escape, National Park Week, links list dialog, links list, skipped, NPS celebrates, enter. NPS celebrates, left paren U.S. National Park Service right paren. Page has 3, heading list dialog, headings list, historic occasions and inspiring place, enter. Heading Level 1 Historic Occasions and Inspiring Places, blank. Join us in celebrating and commemorating the stories, places, and people of the National Park Service. Each year Parks and Pro.
Okay, so as you saw, I navigated the site. Again, I was pretty much just letting it read a lot of this stuff. Somebody who is blind isn't going to actually even go that far. They're going to hit these buttons so fast and hear little bits of it and navigate around the page much quicker than you are with JAWS, all right? But what I'm testing for, as someone who doesn't use JAWS natively, I'm just seeing if all those buttons and stuff are correctly done and stuff. So you'll notice when on the first page, it identified there were 3 regions, 11 headings, 22 links, right? It identified all those sections, and all of those things are things that a person using JAWS can jump straight to. Any questions about JAWS or screen readers? Yeah.
So when it's reading it, how do you stop and access that page?
So I was just telling it to go ahead and read top to bottom. I can hit escape at any moment. I can use the arrow keys to move up and down of content. So the arrow keys will let me go from this paragraph, it'll read it, and then stop, and then I hit the arrow key and it'll go to the next one. And I can, so there's all the keys in navigation that I can use.
Okay.
Yes?
And this is software that's embedded on your computer?
Voiceover is on the Mac, but this is software that you have to purchase for Windows.
And then download onto your
Yeah. Yeah. So then, but there is a version I will tell you, there's something called Narrator in Windows 10 that is supposed to take over as the next great thing, but it's not there yet. Don't bother with it. It doesn't work. Now, yeah, it's great that Microsoft is doing it. Microsoft is a great company about paying attention to accessibility, but Narrator's just not ready. It's just not a mature enough product yet. Yeah.
My question is, how is JAWS the same as the program Read Out Loud for the district? Is it the same? Because I think...
No, it's not really the same, because JAWS allows the navigation of a page. Read Out Loud is, telling you, it's reading you the story. This is navigating a web page. So as a JAWS user, I would probably use JAWS to get to that point where it would read for me, and then I would activate the Read Out Loud, and it would tell me the story. Okay, so that's people who have no vision or very little vision. The other group, people with low vision, they're going to do things like make the screen bigger, and they're going to zoom in. So I'm going to zoom in here on this page up to 200%, and I should still be able to do everything on this page as I could when it was at 100%. There's not content sitting on top of other content. All the buttons still work. I need to be able to enlarge it and increase the font size. Sometimes on websites you'll see that they've got it coded in a way where the font doesn't get bigger if you zoom in. There's ways to do that so you can prevent users from doing this stuff. Well, that's not good, right? So people with low vision, again, we'll zoom in. There's also other software called Zoom Text that does the same kind of thing. And then there's others techniques. Our IT director for our company is low vision. And he has a TV about this size as his monitor, and he stands about here to access it. That's what he does. So he also uses JAWS a lot, but he can see a little bit. So, but you know, he is functionally blind. So the other way people will look at a website is in high contrast. Color inverted, this is something you can do in your operating system. In Windows 10, it's a theme. In Mac, it's under the accessibility controls. And you can bring it up in several different color combinations. You can do yellow on black text. You can do white on black, black on white. You can do all sorts of different color combinations. So that's visual disabilities. Let's talk about motor skills disabilities. And motor skills disabilities is also a spectrum, just like in the same way that visual disabilities is. Yes, we're talking about people who are quadriplegic, who can't use, who have no hand control. We're also talking about people with Parkinson's and severe arthritis. So people who just can't use a mouse. So I'm going to play you a little video here. This is a commercial that ran this year at the Super Bowl. This is the long cut of it. They only ran the 30 spot at the Super Bowl, but this is the long cut of it.
My name is Grover.
Sean. My name is Ian.
I'm Taylor.
My name is Owen, and I am 9.5 years old.
I only have one.
And yeah.
I love video games, my friends, my family, and again video games.
Whenever I play it, it makes me feel happy.
The fun that you get to have with connecting with your friends.
You make your own rules?
It's his way of interacting with his friends when he can't physically otherwise do it.
When I'm playing with a regular controller, there's some things that don't work for me.
It's difficult for me to use both joysticks and the D-pad at the exact same time.
And it just slowed me down a bunch more, while other people were like,
She's never had the freedom to play at the level she knows she could.
I never thought it was unfair. I just thought, hey, this is the way it is and it's not gonna change.
What I like about the adaptive controller is that now everyone can play.
I don't even have to look at the controller and just be like looking at the screen like, hey, yep.
You never want your kid to feel like an outsider or an other.
One of the biggest fears early on is, how will Owen be viewed by the other kids? He's not different when he plays.
It's a little challenging, but that's the whole point of gaming.
I can hit the buttons just as fast as they can.
And I think I can crush my friends.
No matter how your body is or how fast you are, you can play. It's a really good thing to have in this world.
The device that they were showing in there is called the Xbox Adaptive Controller, and it's what's called a switch device. It's designed so that person who doesn't have the fine motor skills can access pre-programmed buttons. That one is kind of cool too, because if you notice on the back there was a whole bunch of little plugs in the back. Every single button can be made into a foot switch or a different type of switch. So every button on there, plus the main controls. And the great thing that Microsoft did is they made the drivers open source, so anybody can adapt this for any system. So that's really cool, huh? So I got to give props to Microsoft, because and like I said before, Microsoft's a great company. They're doing a lot of this stuff already. So how do people with motor skills disabilities use the internet? Well, the most basic is to just use a keyboard. Take your mouse, put it aside. Can you navigate your pages? You should be able to navigate your website using the tab key, the enter key, and the arrow keys, and nothing else. And the great thing here, you have everything you need to test this on your stuff. All right? Because testing this, you don't need to download JAWS or anything like that. Just use your keyboard. You can also do other keyboards. There was one on the first slide I showed. And then this one here is a different keyboard where it's just enlarged. The targets are bigger and the letters are bigger. Another way is with speech control. And the most common is with a program called Dragon Naturally Speaking. And that's where you talk to your computer and you tell it what you want it to do. Then there are other input devices. There are switch devices, like that one there is a little Bluetooth switch device. And for navigating the internet, one of those is a tab key, the other is the enter key. And you can tab and enter and navigate an entire website that way, in theory, if it's done right. There are also things called sip-puff devices. Same thing, but it's a little tube that goes in your mouth, and you are sipping and puffing to do those controls. And then there's also eye tracking. I got to play with an eye tracker the other day. This is an eye tracking Windows 10 tablet. Well, here, watch it, and then I'll talk about it.
Type out your whole name.
K-E-V-I-N-M-U-R-P-H-Y-Y Kevin Murphy.
So I was doing it with what's called blink control. So I would stare at a letter and blink, and then that was counted as a selection. You can also do it with just staring. If you stare long enough at a letter, it will select it. And you can also do it with other devices. So if you have some foot control, you could, or one hand that you could use, then you could look and select with a device. That one there is called the PRC Accent 1400 with new eye. And that's just a Windows 10 tablet with the special software, and it costs $15,000. Because it qualifies as what's called durable medical goods. So in order for Medicare to pay for it, it has to be built in a certain way and classified in a certain way. Now that was after about a half an hour of me practicing on this to get it just to type my name, and incorrectly, if you notice, I did 2 Y's at the end. It was exhausting too. If you think this JAWS was exhausting, this was incredibly tiring. Just to keep, because you have to concentrate with your face the whole time. So the reason I got to play with this is my wife's a speech pathologist, and she got this for one of her clients. And so she brought it home before she gave it to the client, and so we could set it up and make sure everything was working on it and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I got to play with it. And the kid that she got it for just like took to it immediately. Just like was just navigating around, doing web stuff and all that kind of stuff. It took us forever to actually do anything with it. So, any question about motor skills disabilities? Okay, I'm going to mention hearing, speech, and cognitive as well. Hearing is pretty obvious. You want to test to see if your website meets hearing, turn the speakers off. Can you do everything? The other one that's not so much an issue probably for anybody here, but if you are doing any kind of software stuff, is don't require speech for input. I shouldn't have to use my voice if I don't have a voice. And then cognitive, this is again a spectrum of people, autism, dyslexia, seizures, all sorts of different things in that spectrum, okay? So you added all that together, and 1 in 5 people has a disability that affects their daily life. So statistically here, there's 3 or 4 of us. I'm one. I have a hearing loss. We have another. Yeah. This is not a fringe group. So when people say, well, we're just doing it for this small group of people, and that's not what we're talking about. Here's a fun statistic for you. I'm going to make sure I get it right. There are more visually impaired users in the United States using the internet than there are internet users in Canada, or Mexico, or Italy. Same thing with hard of hearing users. And you can add then Spain to that list as well. This is not a small little group. This is a major portion of the population.